think that the president needs to do more, the Congress needs to do more. Cities out here that are the target of this political game that Governor Abbott is playing are suffering. And here in Illinois, it's minus 29 degrees outside with the wind chill. We have migrants that arrive from Texas virtually every day, hundreds, and we don't have places to put them. We don't have enough shelter space here. There are plenty of other cities where, you know, if he's going to send people, they could be sent. But no, he's choosing only Democratic states, Democratic cities.
Well, it sounds like J.B. Pritzker has a problem with the migrant problem that our whole country has, but only in the political sense. How come the red state governor is sending him to the blue cities and the blue states? I don't know. Maybe there is a reason behind that. And I find it interesting that J.B. Pritzker calls what Governor Abbott is doing, in his words, a political game. Spare me. Reading from the centersquare.com, a report from a couple weeks ago, Illinois has been under some form of a gubernatorial disaster proclamation for most of the past 4 years, giving the Pritzker administration sweeping emergency powers to spend taxpayer dollars. Some are looking for a change. Since September 2022, J.B. Pritzker has issued 30-day disaster proclamations addressing the ongoing migrant crisis. His most recent proclamation expired Monday. Friday, he issued his 18th disaster proclamation. Well, let's get another perspective on this. We welcome to the show Illinois State Senator Terry Bryant, my friend. She's from the 58th District. Senator, thanks for being here with us today to get your perspective on what's going on here in the state of Illinois.
Thank you, Annie. You did a really good job in relaying that from Center Square, because it's been quite frustrating to be here in the Senate. I'm the assistant floor leader, so I tend to debate a lot of these controversial bills. What is now termed the Trust Act, which is a bill that really hinders law enforcement from talking to ICE, so we can get rid of some of the folks who come in that are committing crimes, is one issue. The other issue is just as you described. The governor continues to sign emergency orders, which lets him skirt the procurement laws so he can spend money pretty much the way he wants. In addition, he keeps sweeping money. The Democrats gave him in this budget year the ability to sweep up to 8% from agencies that he controls. Ordinarily, he can do 5. He can do 8 now. So he's swept $160 million, and he wants legislators to come back and backfill that.
Man, Illinois State Senator Terry Bryant with us right now. Tell us some of the things that Illinois residents, taxpayers, what their money is going to spend because of this influx of migrants coming to Illinois. What are we paying for?
Well, first, think about the fact that about 80% of those who are coming to the United States right now, according to J.B. Pritzker and according to some of the Democrats, are coming as asylum seekers. 80% of those who come as asylum seekers are going to be found to not actually be eligible for asylum, but we're turning them loose. So instead of having the Trump era remain in Mexico while we sorted all of that out, we have them coming here. So I just got a statistic this morning that said 1,900 Illinoisans, or 1,900 people in Illinois last year died of fentanyl poisoning. 1,900, and that's 1 year. And we know that about 80% of all the fentanyl coming into the United States is coming across the southern border, right? So there's just one aspect. Yeah. Some of the money, you're asking about the money, besides this $160 million that he's sweeping for so-called asylum seekers in the city of Chicago, which, by the way, said they wanted to be a sanctuary city, there's almost $2 billion going for immigrant health care and for welcome centers, which to your listeners includes one in Fairmont City. So you have a welcoming center, which is not like when you see somebody coming into the state, welcoming them into the state. It's a place where non-citizens can go to get things like laptops, help with groceries, help with rent, all things that citizens are not eligible for. And their applications at those welcome centers are only in Spanish. So when I went into one in Carbondale and asked if I could get one in English, they told me that they would have to have one faxed, not scanned, but faxed. And I asked for one. I said, what if I am here there's a lot of Somali students at SIU.
Yeah.
What if I'm Somali and I speak some English, but I don't speak any Spanish? What do I do about an application for that? So this is such a broad topic, but I think really the essence of all of it is we're releasing people into our country who probably 80% of the time have no right to be here.
Wow. I just did a quick search here online. You said Fairmount City. That's 11 minutes from where I'm sitting right now.
Yes.
So
yes.
This is not a Chicago thing. This is not a broad state of Illinois. This is a right here in St. Louis thing.
Yeah.
And if you're on the Missouri side of the river, that river and those bridges aren't stopping individuals that are being brought to Fairmount City from coming over to this side of the state at all. So how do they get to Fairmount City? What is the process of these individuals finding this center, this welcome center in Fairmount City?
So generally, the welcoming centers that I'm aware of are, there's one in Carbondale, one in Fairmont City. I think there's one up by Western Illinois University. There's a couple over in Champaign. All the rest are in Chicago. So quite often, we have a lot of migrant farm workers. I used to represent Union County, which has all those great wineries and orchards. In the Metro East, you've got Eckert's over in Belleville and so forth. So you have a lot of migrant workers that are coming. Since you asked this question, here's my concern right now. If you live in an area where there's an Amtrak station or a Greyhound station, we do have people who are being brought to Chicago from Texas. But what is Chicago going to do with these individuals? I think they're going to start putting them on Amtrak. So I represent Mount Vernon, DuQuoin, a little piece of Centralia, and I go to church in Carbondale. Centralia, DuQuoin, and Carbondale have Amtrak stations. Mount Vernon is the crossroads of I-64 and I-57. If you send people on Amtrak to the Metro East, they're going to get off at those stations there. Now, I'm not aware that it's happening yet. I'm hearing rumors that it's starting to happen. But they got to go somewhere with these individuals, even if you take it straight out of J.B. Pritzker's mouth. Yeah. He thinks that there are other cities. Carbondale made themselves a welcoming city. So they're probably going to get some of these folks. So I think East St. Louis, I don't know if they declared themselves a welcoming city, but they're certainly close to that Amtrak line and to Greyhound. So I think folks need to quit thinking about the fact that this is only Chicago. Because we told Chicago as legislators, we're not giving you any more money. Republicans did. They know that in the end, they hold all the cards, right, and they're going to get more money. J.B. Pritzker now wants the legislature to come back and backfill this $160 million that he stole from places like DCFS. So we're going to be addressing this. And then when legislators like me and almost all of the ones in Southern Illinois vote no on that supplemental budget, we're going to be accused of not loving kids, of not caring about breast cancer, of not caring about all of those things like DHS, all of those DCFS, all those places where he skimmed money, we're going to be expected to backfill. And I'm not planning to do it. He needs to find the money. He needs to take it out of those that undocumented health care that he's been funding to the tune of $2 billion.
Man, it's just it never ends with these Democrats in the state, and it is so. I don't need to preach to you about this. You live it every day, but the lack of any sort of power that the Republicans have because of the super minorities we're in, and J.B. Pritzker being, in my opinion, the leading progressive in a position of power in this country, because they get away with a lot of things in Illinois because it kind of flies under the radar. I'm begging you and your Republican colleagues to stand on principle and to scream this from the mountaintops, because I'm going to have you here to talk about it, but everybody else needs to understand the way that these operations are put into place. How much does it affect when I remember when sanctuary cities and sanctuary states came about? I believe Governor Rauner was the one who was a Republican who decided to kind of bring this onto the table for the state of Illinois. But J.B. Pritzker and the Democrats have stood very strongly by the idea of being welcoming and you know, the whole Statue of Liberty speech that we hear so often. And if you don't stand by that, then you are a racist bigot. And we hear this over and over and over again. Well, then they start coming. And now it's the Republican governor in Texas's fault. How much does the fact that we are a sanctuary state, and then, of course, Chicago being a sanctuary city, you mentioned Carbondale as well, that sanctuary status, Are they getting what they asked for here?
Yeah, they are. And JB Pritzker will push back and say that the Trust Act is not a sanctuary state bill. But it is in essence, because law enforcement is not allowed to coordinate at all on any of these issues. So let's suppose that someone is arrested because it's evident that they are an illegal immigrant, okay? But if they weren't arrested for something else, they can't hold them only on that immigration issue. They can't even ask them that. That's what comes under the Trust Act. I just filed a bill.
That sounds like sanctuary to me. That sounds exactly like sanctuary.
Yeah, it does. Well, Department of Corrections, which is my wheelhouse. I'm retired from the Department of Corrections. They used to be able to notify ICE that they had someone that was getting ready to parole. They can't. They're not even allowed to do that anymore. They're not allowed to tell ICE. What the JB Pritzker's answer is, well, yeah, they need to put a detainer on that person, but they don't know the Department of Corrections is holding that person. If the Department of Corrections cannot notify them that they have them and that they're about to release them. So I just filed a bill to repeal the Trust Act. I wish that I had known that actually there wasn't a bill. I assumed wrongly because, there's 10,000 bills filed in every legislative session, literally 10,000 plus. I thought there was one to repeal the Trust Act. I didn't have hope that it would get called, but I just realized that there isn't even one to repeal it. So I filed it about 2 weeks ago to repeal the Trust Act. It is a sanctuary state act. And we fought that with Governor Rauner. I don't care if the person's Democrat or Republican. What Governor Rauner did in that act was unconscionable. And he needs to be held responsible. But Governor Pritzker has now taken that and run with it and is spending our money on those who, not people who came here legally. My best friend's from Nicaragua. She waited 7 years in Mexico to come here on a third country visa because, and while she was there, in Mexico that you cannot earn money if you cannot work a job where you earn money if you're not a Mexican citizen.
Wow.
So in Mexico, while she and her husband are trying to survive after fleeing Nicaragua, they waited 7 years to come here, learned the language, became citizens. Their children and their grandchildren are all citizens here, started a small business. She's so anti-illegal immigration, she makes me look like a moderate in that issue. So those who are here legally, they don't like that benefits are being taken away from them. And one more thing, if I could,
sure.
This issue with Medicaid for undocumented immigrants, you think about this for just a minute. If you are a legal citizen in Illinois, a citizen on Medicaid, you're on a program that's called managed care. You have to have pre-approval for your doctor, pre-approval for the hospital. You have a spend down and pre-approval for your procedure. If you are a non-citizen, you're on fee for service, which means you can pick your doctor, hospital. You don't need pre-approval for your procedure and you have no spend down. If you are ages right now 55, they've put a little bit, the governor put a little bit of rule in there where he capped it at 70,000 people. So 70,000 can take advantage of that if you are 42 and older, okay? They're already covered from 0 to, I think it's age 19 under all kids. So there's only a gap of 19 to 42. Everybody else is getting something better than citizens, including our homeless veterans, are not treated the same as non-citizens. So
Terry, before I let you go, and I want to remind people, we're speaking to Illinois State Senator Terry Bryant of the 58th District within the listening range here of 97.1 FM Talk. You need to talk to the people listening right now that are getting as fired up and angry as I am and as you are. They need to know something that they can do, somebody who they can talk to, that they can be a part of some sort of movement, because it's not going to come from Republicans like yourself in the Senate and in the General Assembly, because there's not enough of you, and that is on the voters in the state of Illinois to rectify that in November. What can they do right now to push back on this tyrannical governor and the supermajority of Democrats running out of Springfield?
So one thing they can do is call my office to tell me that they're with me on this issue, because I keep tallies of all of these issues. They can call the Democrats because this is their issue and tell them that they're not going to stand for it anymore. But Annie, we can make a difference even in a super minority. We had an issue with the Prison Review Board over the last few years where Governor Pritzker was appointing really far left individuals who actually released, you might remember one of the individuals from Madison County, Paula Sims, released her from prison. The three members of this Senate where we actually confirm them, the committee where we confirm those appointees, it was Senator McClure, Senator Plummer, and myself. We pushed back so hard that we actually got three of those members kicked off the board. And now we have a full board that is functioning in a much better way. So what do? We have to talk on shows like this and tell people that the governor has skimmed this money, and he's giving it to a city who said they wanted to be a sanctuary city, who said that they would eat the cost of this. And now the rest of us who said we want no part of this are being expected to fund that. So give us the power as Republicans, give us that ability to say, I've had 1,000 people call my office and they're not going to put up with this. But more so, call those Democrat offices, flood their phones, because they think they're getting by with this and they shouldn't be allowed to get by with it. Flood the governor's phones and read off things like this, like 80% of asylees are going to get sent back, of those who are applying for asylum. Tell them that we're not going to put up with 1,900 people in Illinois dying from fentanyl poisoning. When you say that, we have to expose what's happening, talk about it at the coffee shops and so forth.
Yeah, well, we're happy to be able to have you on here, and we thank you for bringing this issue to our attention, because it's easy to put it off. There's a big dramatic election taking place on a national stage, but these are the issues that affect us in our neighborhoods. 11 minutes from where I sit right now, this welcoming center is bringing these people to here. And then what happens next, and who's keeping tabs on them? And are you safe in your own communities that you are funding and paying for? We have to ask these questions, and we have to ask them repeatedly. State Senator Terry Bryant, thank you so much for being with us today. It's good to talk to you.
Thanks for having me, Annie.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing what you do.
Thank you. It's my honor and pleasure to do so. I know you feel the same way.